Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Just it's Conway Buckle here from Economic Change. I'm just going to be giving it a couple of minutes just to let everyone else have a chance to log on. There you go, I see a couple of people logging on already. I've got Sarah Taylor from Alzheimer's and Dementia Support Services as well on the line. Can everyone see my screen okay? Sarah, can you see my screen?
I can, yes. Hello.
Okay, perfect. Go. And we'll just give it maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then we can just kick off. Just while we're waiting for others as well, I will mention it again later, but there is an option to ask some questions. I think pretty much everyone on the webinar will be on mute throughout the webinar, but there is an option on the side, like a little chat box, you can ask questions. And at the end of the webinar, myself and Sarah will be, if you ask some questions there, it'll take 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe, depending on how many questions there are, just to kind of answer as best as we can. So please feel free to post any questions on there, and we will answer them. Okay. I've got 8 people online so far. Perfect. I think what I'm going to do is, just in the interest of everyone's time, I think we're just going to kick it off. So we will be sending out a recording of this afterwards with all my contact details on as well. So you will have that to kind of reference at a later stage. So just want to start it off. So again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the webinar this Monday morning. I know Monday is always a busy time. So thank you, everyone, again. Really appreciate you joining us. And special thanks to Sarah for joining us from Alzheimer and Dementia Support Services. So my name is Conway Buckle. I head up business development for Economic Change. I work with a lot of our new clients that we work with, as well as a lot of existing clients. And Sarah is the joint CEO of Alzheimer and Dementia Support Services. I'm probably going to be calling it ADSS throughout the webinar. Just
that's fine.
of saving time. So I'll let Sarah do a proper introduction and an overview of the organization as we go through. But essentially today is just to discuss about the work that they have done internally as an organization, working with Salesforce and Economic Change, especially around service delivery and program management, some of the key areas that needed to be addressed and what's been done there and how Salesforce has helped them. So I've got a broad outline of an agenda here. Just an overview of Alzheimer and Dementia Support Services. We'll look at what actually happened on the Salesforce project, some of the results and the outcomes, and then some takeaways for yourselves, the listeners on the webinar today. And then, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we will be there is a chat box on the webinar, so you will be on mute, but please feel free to post questions. And we will have a short section at the end just to try and answer those as best as we possibly can. So Sarah, maybe you can just do a brief introduction to yourself, and then obviously just a bit of an overview as to who the organization is and what you are out there trying to achieve.
Of course. Well, firstly, thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning. So Alzheimer's and Dementia Support Services is a charity based in Dartford, Gresham and Swanley in Kent. We provide lots of different services, from home care to day support, community groups, advice and information. to people that are affected by dementia, and that includes family members, carers, as well as the person that has the diagnosis themselves. We also provide a 24-hour helpline, which is for the whole of Kent. So anybody that's got any concerns about dementia or living with dementia can call that number at any time and get some support. So that's really sort of in a nutshell what our charity does. I've worked with the charity for just 4 years now, actually. I came in as a coordinator and then moved into a senior management role, and then I'm now the joint CEO, so I'm obviously very happy to be here.
Okay, it's quite a progression. Okay, so you've had your fingers in the pies in a few different areas, I guess, within the
Yes, yeah.
organization.
Yes, and obviously we'll go on to that, but I really think that really helped in us introducing Salesforce because I had worked at that level.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Sarah. So obviously, you made a decision to work with Salesforce. Maybe you can just give us a bit of background as to some of the reasons you needed to look at a new CRM
Yeah.
for various reasons.
Absolutely. When I was working as a coordinator, I'd worked for a bigger charity that had a very good CRM system. So when I came to this lovely little local charity, I was almost shocked to see how hard everyone was having to work just at storing data. We had umpteen different spreadsheets. The teams, because we've got different teams, they were kind of working in silos. One person could be accessing 3 of our services and nobody would necessarily know that. So there really wasn't, good communication going on within the teams and between the teams either. And as I said, lots of spreadsheets, lots of time being spent on admin-y sort of type tasks, so therefore less time with people we're supporting. To try and produce figures for reports was an absolute nightmare. In fact, the then CEO asked me to find the number of unique people we were supporting, and it took me, a good couple of days, literally going through spreadsheet after spreadsheet and comparing them, and then, oh no, that person's appeared again, so I can't count them, and trying to remember all these names, and it was a real nightmare. And fortunately, the system that the big charity I previously worked at was Salesforce, so I had it in my mind that it was a system that could really work for us because I'd seen how it would work before.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think this is, economic change has been doing this for quite a while, and worked with organizations of all different types. But I think the common thread is that we come up against this kind of challenge very often. It sounds very simplistic, but it's a real problem when organizations just don't have insights as to, teams aren't speaking to each other, just pulling basic figures out on service users, being able to pull out any kind of numbers out of disparate kind of systems or spreadsheets, and everyone's got their own spreadsheets. I think this is a very common issue, especially for organizations who are going through a sort of a growing phase, I guess you might call it, who might not be a much larger organization who've got massive systems in place. I think it's something that we come up against quite a lot. So I don't think that you would be unique in that scenario, but unfortunately it does happen quite a lot out there, So what was your vision when obviously you had an idea of CRM, specifically Salesforce, and did you have an idea of what the end goalposts would be, where you wanted to be after doing a project?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What I wanted was one place for everything. So, if Joe Bloggs phones up asking for help, we can look him up on the system, see what contact we've already had, if any, see which services we're already providing to him, again, if any, and as a way of being able to really sort of support that person in a holistic way. That was the vision for me, is that you could look at that one person and see everything we've ever done with that person, that we would be able to have a little bit more of an outcomes-based approach. So actually identifying with people what outcomes they want us to help achieve, and having a way of recording that and showing that. So yeah, that was my sort of key vision really initially.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's a key area. I think with an organization of your type, obviously focused on service delivery, it's all about engagement as well. And if you're speaking to one of your service users and you're not able to see where else you've engaged with them, or if they've spoken to other people in your team, it creates an ununified kind of approach, and it can leave service users, I think, feeling like maybe that that they're not getting the attention or the care that they need.
Yeah.
It might seem like a small thing, but if I'm a service user, that's really important to me. And obviously as an organization, you want to be able to provide that kind of engagement with your service users.
There's also a benefit for the external relationships, because we were trying to build our relationships with the local memory service, social services, people like that. And they contact us about a certain person and we don't know what we're doing for that person. That really doesn't make us look very professional. And I think that that's about then your how people perceive us, isn't it? That we need them to see us as a professional organisation supporting people.
Yeah, definitely. So it's not only about internal benefit or your service user benefit, but how do we work with partners, and obviously having all of that data around engagement that you can go back internally, obviously to trustees, etc., and be able to talk confidently about what you're doing as an organization.
Yeah.
And to have that information at your fingertips. So it kind of affects many areas. Okay, so in terms of the actual project itself, looking at the implementation, I've got a few things up here. Implementation and adoption are, there's two critical areas, and obviously working with economic change as a partner to help you achieve that vision that you were looking to.
Yeah.
Can you just talk us through a few things in the actual implementation itself? I think what is critical is always to understand what you as an organization had to do to kind of get ready for that, and how you participated in that implementation of the solution rather than just stepping back and getting something else.
Yeah, so initially I worked with a colleague around drawing up a bit of a map, if you like, of how we thought it could look. I had a very clear vision in my mind of how it could look, I think purely because I'd been fortunate enough to work with Salesforce before, so that certainly was a benefit to me. I consulted with staff that would be using the system, because I felt it was really important, although I'd worked at that level and was fully aware of what the issues were and what we needed. I just felt to get their engagement in it long term, I needed them to be involved with it from the step one, really. So I held a couple of consultation sessions with people to draw really together what they were using other systems such as spreadsheets and Access Database for, and helping them to get into the mindset of, oh, wouldn't it be easier if all this was in one place? So that was sort of the first step for me. When we got involved with economic change, they also held a workshop, like a design workshop, which was, again, it was helpful because they'd already had that sort of ideas from myself around what it needed to look at, but they would break that down with each team and say, okay, this is what we've got so far. Is anything missing? Do we need to add anything? So that was really helpful. Again, it really got the team on board from day one, that they were involved in the design of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's critical. I think on any project where we do approach, large or small, it's really that kind of, we call it the discovery and the scoping and design. That is really critical, and it is exactly about that, trying to get, wanting to get the buy-in from the team, because these are the people who'll be using the system on a daily basis. So they obviously, when you're looking at a project like this, there's an organizational objective, but from a user perspective, I think it's really important to get the input from everyone on the team, and understand how they want to use the system, because it can lead, if we don't go through that process, as I'm sure then when it comes to actually adopting the system, you can have this great project and you can put this fantastic solution in place, but if the actual users are not bought into the idea and actually understanding how the solution is actually going to affect them on a day-to-day basis and make their lives easier, and it help them to deliver the way that they'd like to deliver to the service users that they work with, then it's the kind of project is at a real risk, to put it mildly. So in terms of actually adoption, so you've mentioned obviously that the broader team was very much involved with the scoping and requirements, and then being a part of the design as well. And how have you found adoption of using Salesforce since the project went, the product and the project went live and is now being
It's been fantastic. I really couldn't be prouder of the team, actually. I mean, we've got varied skill base when it comes to IT in our team. As you can imagine, we're a health and social care voluntary sector provider, so a lot of our staff are real sort of hands-on people, very caring, compassionate people. But you know, with the vast majority of my team, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying this, IT is probably a little bit lower down on their skills list. So actually the idea of implementing anything like this can be horrific, you know, it really can. But again, I think because of their involvement from the beginning, that really did help them get on board with it. And actually, they really have. They've done so well. They're all using it for everything they do. If they've got any questions, they know I've got an open door policy anyway, so they're always happy to come and ask me. Or we use, for people that know Salesforce, we use the chatter as a way of interacting if anyone's got any issues, you know, if they've duplicated somebody, something silly like that, you know, they need me to correct it for them. But yeah, no, they've been absolutely brilliant. I mean, we did do a lot of work with them, again, with economic change. They did some sort of instruction workshops once the whole system had been fully developed. And again, it was done for each team, because each team is using it slightly differently. You know, they needed their own set of instructions, really. So the fact that we did that, and I've since, because I'm the administrator of the system, I've since held some like little refresher workshops. If I've noticed there's some common errors occurring, I've done that so that we can pull it all back together again. So they're all learning as we go, really, but they've done absolutely fantastic and all been 100% on board with it.
Yeah, well, that's really great to hear, and I think this is really a critical part of any project. You know, with any CRM, you have the buy-in from the team, but if they don't know how to use the solution, and you know, from our perspective, any project that we do, we always spend time at the end. There's a lot of handover and a lot of training, as you know. But it's great to hear that you've kind of become what we would call, I guess, the Salesforce champion within the organization. There's a level of training that we do and handover of the system, and showing each team individually how to use the system for their own role. But definitely, we would always recommend for any organization that there's at least one person within the organization that kind of takes on that Salesforce champion type title, you might say. And then there's always ongoing trainings and learnings to be done, and there might be small changes of the system at some point as things change within the organization. So it's really great to have you kind of in the middle of all of that, you know, setting up workshops with the team. You know, if they're not sure of things, explaining that. And I think one of the real benefits of Salesforce as well is that there's a lot of self-learning which can happen. As you know, we have these Salesforce trailheads. I'm not sure how much time you spent on that, but I think for the wider team, if they do have any questions, it's quite easy to quickly find out how to do certain things, or if you're not sure how to run certain reports. You know, if you weren't available, for example, to get that kind of information is pretty easy. You mentioned something a bit earlier using chatter internally, and I wanted to just touch on some of the products that you have with Salesforce. Could you maybe just tell us a little bit which of the products it is that you're using from Salesforce?
So we're using the not-for-profit Success Pack and the Service Cloud products. Initially, we were looking at the not-for-profit Success Pack purely for fundraising purposes. We were looking at perhaps just having it as a fundraising database. That was our very first look at Salesforce. And then obviously realised actually we can get so much more from it. So yeah, that's what we're working with at the moment. And economic change, what they did is they developed a lot of custom objects for us, because you know, the system comes as it comes, obviously, but actually there's so much that you can develop yourself, and that's where that was really vital, that we were able to work out what custom objects we needed, and those objects work really well for us. That's, you know, a lot of the parts we're using are customized.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's an important point. You know, the product does kind of come out of the box, and you can switch it on, and there's some basic functionality there. You mentioned fundraising. You know, there is with NPSP, the Nonprofit Success Pack, there is an element of that functionality already there. But each organization is different, you know, and it's really important to go through the entire process that we've been discussing and have a partner who's experienced that you can work with, and say, okay, so we see there's certain pieces of functionality there. We're also looking at service delivery, so we're looking at Service Cloud, you know, but how do we tailor that solution as it comes and make it really 100% customized for our organization to make sure we're getting maximum benefit out of it, you know? I think, unfortunately, a lot of organizations, you know, with NPSP and with especially with the nonprofit, the .org team, it does come out of the box. You can just switch it on, and a lot of organizations think that's where it just ends, and then wonder why it's not working properly. So it's really good to hear that you kind of went through that journey. So we touched on a lot of elements here. We do offer, as you know, we offer small discount packages for small charities. So was that a key influencer in making your decision to work with economic change?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because understandably, we're responsible to our board of trustees, and whenever we're making big financial decisions, they're involved in that. We have to get their buy-in as well. So when we were looking at developers, economic change, for a number of reasons, yes, the cost was there, but also we were just really impressed with the proposal they put forward. Really showed they knew what they were doing as well. And I think the board were happy to see that it's such a big investment, that you want to make sure you're going to get a really good service. But certainly, I mean, we had the Super Mums project, and that gave us 6 days worth of free development work, which really you can't put a price on that, can you? That's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I think something else you mentioned there, which is really important, is it's great getting the buy-in from the team, the end users who will be using the solution to deliver services. But it's really important as well to be able to go back to the board and say, okay, we found the right partner, it's at the right price point, we've got the right solution in mind, and to get that assurance that you can give to them as well, because at the end of the day, they have obviously a massive role in signing off any projects. So it's great to hear that was a benefit to you. I think there's probably a lot more we could talk about. That's been a great summary of what actually the project looked like. So thank you for that. I guess now it's a bit further down the line, and I just wanted to talk a bit about some of the results and outcomes. Some of the you spoke a bit about the vision that you had going into the project and understanding what potentially could happen. But maybe you could just kind of highlight some of the key things that you've started to realize after the project. You've had Salesforce for a while now, so what are some of the key benefits that you've seen?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, one thing I mentioned earlier about me spending this sort of 2 to 3 days trying to find this number of unique people we were supporting. I could have cried when I first saw our dashboard. So when we developed our Salesforce solution, we've got this lovely dashboard that when you log in, it's the first thing you see. And top left-hand corner, there is a figure for the number of unique people we support. And I honestly could have cried when I saw that, because I'd spent 2 days trying to find that number, and this system, it's just sitting there. Every time I look at it, it's there. There it is. Thank you. Yeah. So that that was brilliant, because actually what that's done is with these figures that you see on this dashboard, we're able to report back to the board. So that's a sort of lots of benefits out of that. One, in that they've seen it was actually a really good investment because we're able to produce these figures. Two, I think it's given the board great confidence in our leadership, because they can see on a monthly basis we do a report for them, and they can see that we really have got a handle on what the service is doing and how many people we're reaching, that sort of thing. Obviously these figures are brilliant for funding purposes as well. When we've got little pockets of funding for different projects and things, we've been able to produce figures very quickly to be able to report back on those to those funders, and even for funding applications as well, we're able to really produce key figures that can help us secure funding. So that's all been really, really well received. I mean, within the team, the benefits have been that there's definitely much better communication between the teams, because they can see now how jointly they're working. They can look at that person that they're supporting and say, oh, they also go to one of the memory cafes. Oh, I didn't realize they also go to the singing group. So actually then, if they've got to troubleshoot something to do with that person, they know, or if I go and speak to Sarah, she'll be able to let me know what goes on at singing, how they manage things there. So it's really, really increased the support, the working together, much more joined up approach now. I also think that the team have much more time now for actual contact with people, because there's less admin time involved now. A lot of this they can do as they go. They're not having to spend a whole afternoon updating spreadsheets and different things. They can update it as they go. They log in all the contacts as they go. they can even do, because we've had built-in assessments and support plans on there as well, they can do them in the person's home. They haven't got to come back and type it up later, you know. So I think that's given them a lot more time for client contact. And I think we've seen an increase in the numbers of people we're supporting, and there's a number of factors involved in that. We've done a lot of work externally, raising awareness of who we are and that sort of thing. But I think the fact that we actually have the capacity to support more people as well, because we're spending less time on admin, if you like. So there's been lots and lots of benefits for us. Yeah, I mean, the image people are seeing here, this is a page from our impact booklet. So we had our first, mine and my colleagues' first AGM as CEOs, and we were able to produce this lovely little impact booklet that, you know, had lots of little write-ups about different things, but we were able to just put these numbers in. And often, you know, case studies are lovely, and, you know, I'm a big believer in that quantitative type evidence, but actually, you know, a lot of people do want to see the numbers, don't they? And actually you can see, I mean, these numbers were so easy to produce because we had Salesforce in place.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of benefits that you've kind of talked to there. You know, when I've got ROI there on the top left, the return on investment. Obviously, you're looking to get some return on investment on the investment you've made in the system, and the solution, and the project. I think the critical thing there is just having that time. You know, a lot of, especially for your staff internally, like, you know, they would, you know, most organizations, people are doing it because they want to be able to help others. They want to be able to deliver that impact and see that impact. But if you bog down in administrative duties for half of your day, you're not getting there, it can be very frustrating. And I suppose you start to feel, well, you know, I'm not here to do the thing that I really wanted to do. You know, I guess is the basic way, you know. So it's great to hear that the staff are starting to feel that, and actually feel that their time is more free, and to be able to still do all of those administrative duties, but to be able to do them in a much more efficient way. You know, like you said, like on site, with somebody that they're talking to, be able to log information. You know, obviously Salesforce comes with a mobile app as well, so you can on your phone and see where things are at, or you could just update things on your phone and just have all of that information at your fingertips, you know. So what are the, obviously you had a vision for the project before you started, and you went ahead with the project, and it's been delivered, and a lot of positive things that you've mentioned there, which is great. But what are some of the learnings, maybe things that, that you kind of didn't know that you didn't know before the project started, you know?
Oh, right, okay, look, yeah. Sorry, I was looking at learners. I had a whole different answer prepared for that.
Well, I guess what I mean when I'm talking about learnings, it's just like, what have you, maybe even what have you learned about the organization that you didn't know as well? You know, and learning about the way that you work. Has there been anything in that area which has kind of come out of the mix now that you have a solution in place?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as I said, because I'd worked my way up within the organisation, for me, I was very fortunate in that respect, because I had a lot of knowledge of the services, and I knew what we were doing. I knew the impact we were having. But I think the difficulty is demonstrating that, isn't it? It's demonstrating the impact, because, you know, I could sit here and say confidently that people with dementia, you know, their dementia progresses slower if they're accessing our support, because we're keeping them active and involved and all these different things, you know, and that they certainly have a much better life with their dementia if they get involved with our services. But, you know, that's easy for me to just say. I need to evidence that, don't I?
Yes.
So actually, I think that again is where Salesforce has helped us, because we've been able to demonstrate the impact. You know, we've had one project that we offer is around trying to get people out of hospital quicker, because a hospital is the worst place for someone with dementia to be, because it's a strange environment and all of that, you know. And actually now we've been able to demonstrate how many people we've got out of hospital. We're now doing a bit of preventative work as well, so we can say how many people we've prevented going into hospital. So all these things I actually knew about the organisation and what we do and the impact of what we do, I can now prove.
Yeah, which is a different conversation, I suppose, when you're sitting, you know, with your trustees, or when you're having a conversation with your teams, and you actually have hard figures in front of you and say, well, actually, we know X amount of people we've prevented from having long stays in hospitals, for example, whatever it might be, you know. So that's great to hear. And now that you've been using the system for a while, Do you have any plans kind of moving forward, looking at,
Yes.
Salesforce as a platform, as I'm sure you know, and you can kind of just keep on adding different types of solutions. So what are you thinking about moving forward?
Yeah. So as an admin of the system, I've been able to tweak a few little things as we go, and it's quite fun really, because the team think I'm this IT whiz, because I can, if they say, oh, it'd be really helpful for us to have a field that has this in it, and I can just make that happen. But Salesforce makes it really easy for me to make that happen. So, but it's great. It gives everyone here this impression that I'm this techno whiz,
Yeah,
but actually it is Salesforce that's so easy.
just go with it. Go with it,
Yeah.
Sarah.
But beyond that, we do have a lot of plans for development now. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a sort of care at home type service. So that team at the moment are working off of 2 systems, because they're on Salesforce more just to see what else is going on for certain people across the organisation. But they use a different solution for their rostering, which is the one that was in place. We've inherited. That was here when I came here. So now I'm really keen to get that team fully on Salesforce, to get some sort of rostering system on Salesforce, so that actually they can all be on the same system, which again will cut down on time for them. Really keen for the care workers to be able to access it in the community, because I would like them to be able to, instead of having a folder in people's houses, which isn't really ideal now in this day and age with data protection and things, I would like them to be able to do their daily notes straight onto the Salesforce app, so that goes straight back to the team as well. They can then monitor the daily notes and things and see what's going on. So that's a big area of development that we're really keen to get underway now as soon as possible. And then there's a few other little tweaks, just little things that we've noticed as we go. One thing I haven't done, which was funny because it was the first thing I was looking at, is got fundraising on Salesforce. So that's another area. Yeah, we've never quite got that progressed, I think, because getting the services on was such a priority. But yeah, again, that's another area now that I'm hoping to complete, to get the fundraising, monitoring and things on Salesforce as well.
Okay. Yeah, a couple of things there, and I think having that kind of phased approach is a good way to go as well, though. As you mentioned, sort of the service delivery side of things was kind of key point number 1, which needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Which you've now, it seems, got everything in hand and things are going smoothly. So that's the great thing about working with the Salesforce platform, is that you can slowly start to add different areas as you move along, when the team is ready, when the organization is ready, and definitely like scheduling, rostering, is something we've done a lot of, and we see a lot of organizations that we've done that within Salesforce. Having your caseworkers your care workers actually be able to access it live on site when they're in the field. It's something that we've also done a lot of for some other organizations. That's something that's pretty straightforward and not too complicated to do. And obviously there's the fundraising piece, which is really could be quite a largish project, but it depends on how you digest that as well. But I think the key thing is that once you have the platform in place, you can continuously develop it and enhance it, and see where else which of the other teams perhaps can maybe get the benefits of being on the platform as well. Obviously, Salesforce itself is always developing and always changing as a platform, and they're always adding. There's always apps to look at. There's the Salesforce App Exchange. I'm sure you've had a chance to go and have a look at that, and there's literally thousands of apps that you can sort of just plug and play, giving you lots of different pieces of functionality. So I think once you have the sort of the bare bones of the platform in place and it's doing what you want it to do, it becomes quite exciting to be able to just kind of have a look and start browsing and thinking, well, what else can we do? It's great to hear that you're still very confident in your decision and still very confident in the platform, and that you are thinking about how you can develop it further. There's the dashboard here. I was just showing that quickly. Is there anything else off of here that you think you would like to mention?
I think so you'll see on the top row there's like a colourful block. That's for our outcomes for the year, and so what that's done, and actually that was a learning thing, because it really showed us what areas we really mostly supported people in. So you might be able to make out on the right there, the blue is for health, the lighter blue is nutrition, we've got dark purple mobility, light sort of purple social and community engagement, and so on. So just by glancing at that, I can see immediately that social and community engagement is one of the biggest areas where we're supporting people to achieve outcomes in. So that's been really helpful, because actually that's again kind of proven what we're doing is right, because we do offer a lot of social and community engagement services. We have memory cafes, singing groups, activity groups going on out in the community, and clearly that's the right way to be going, because that's the largest section, if you like, that people are wanting to achieve outcomes in. So that was a really helpful learning point, and for us to be able to monitor that moving forward, I think that will make sure that we're staying current, that we're not just resting on our laurels and always just providing the same thing, that we're always looking at, well, what is it people actually want? What are they hoping to achieve?
I think that's really critical, to be able to make those kind of, based on having the information at your fingertips, to be able to make strategic decisions and say, okay, so how are we going to develop or possibly change the way we deliver services? What is working? What isn't working? And just to have that, I mean, the dashboard is great. Internally we use Salesforce as well, and I love my dashboard. I can just go every morning and have a look, and just this is all data coming from different places, and in all of these visual pieces are based off of reports, but just to be able to log in and just see on a daily basis what's changed, what's happening at the moment, where are we sitting against our metrics. It's really powerful. But there's one other piece that you shared with me. Maybe you could just chat about that as well, which I think is really important. It's going back to the board and being able to have a conversation with them. So how's that worked out for you?
Oh, brilliantly. So my colleague Katie and I, we have been interim joint CEOs for the last 6 months. We were both senior managers. We had a CEO that had come in. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, so we were left with no CEO. So the board asked us if we would step up together as a joint interim role. And so one of the first things we implemented was a monthly report for the board, because we just thought we spend so much time talking at the board meetings and not actually getting enough stuff done. So we thought if we could provide them with the information prior to the meeting, so they've got a really good overview of what's going on. And obviously there's a lot more in this report. This is just the start of it with the figures, really. But again, this takes 5 minutes to produce this, because we just look on Salesforce, look at the reports that we've created, and that's the beauty. Again, you can, as you said earlier, you can create your bespoke reports for whatever you want, and save them, so you can just dip back to them then when you need them again. And what's been brilliant is, the board have looked at that top line and seen that in June we had 440 unique people we were supporting, and then in December, and actually now we're over 700. And so they're asking us, how are your teams managing? Have the teams got capacity for this? Which is brilliant, because before it would have been us telling them, that, oh, we really think the teams are stretched now and we're really working at capacity, we might need to look at recruitment, but we didn't really have the evidence to support that. Whereas now, if we go to them with a proposal for a new role, or an additional role or something, they're already in the mindset of, wow, these teams are working at full capacity, we need to consider growing. And so that's been really, really helpful. And what's been lovely, sorry, go on.
No, I'm just saying it's great to let the data do the talking for you, I suppose. And to build the case, if you are needing a new staff member or someone on your team, to kind of have the board sitting there and have the data at their fingertips, so they can start to understand what you're doing on a daily basis, instead of you trying
absolutely. Yeah. And I think, nice, because you'll see there's some greyed out boxes, and that's purely because these were figures that we weren't doing in those months. And then the board have said, well, actually it'd be really helpful if we could see, how many this and how many that, and we can go, yeah, that's fine, we can get that. Whereas before I probably would have inwardly groaned at, oh God, how am I going to get those numbers for them? But now I know, that's fine, I can get that, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, in my own world as well, just being able to go and quickly build a new report, or just add a few filters and change a few things, and then get those figures that we're looking for. I mean, it is a game changer, So it's great to see that it's being used in that way, and that you're able to go back to the board and give them this data, and obviously that's having a positive impact on how you engage with them and how they engage with you as a team, and ultimately, how you deliver impact into the community. So that's been a great synopsis. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been great chatting with you. I've got a few takeaways over here. for some of the guys on the line. Is there anything that you would want to add at the end? Don't have to.
I just probably just a couple of learning points, I think, a couple of tips, I think. I mean, we were fortunate that with our package with economic change, it included an admin course, so that whoever was going to be the admin for the system, you know, basically developed a bit of a tool belt of how to deal with certain things. Because I was the person that introduced the system, and you know, at the time I was a senior manager, it made perfect sense for me to be that person. But obviously during that time I then stepped up as CEO, and I think for me time now is a major issue on being that role. So I would just say, you know, if anybody's going to adopt the system, really consider the time that's needed to be an administrator of the system. It's not a huge time asking, depends on obviously on how large your system is, but there is a time factor involved, and really important that that person gets the time to do the training, because I was on the course but often had to then duck out and then try and find time to catch up later because I'd got called away for some emergency or something. So really think about that actually for the person to really fulfill that role, they'll need to do the training so that they're really confident in what they're doing. I mean, as you said, I think you mentioned the trailheads earlier, didn't you? The trailheads are fantastic, they really are. But you know, my background is also a bit of training, so I really appreciate having a bit of contact with people as well, and being able to share what we're learning and learn from each other as much as I can from an e-learning type system. So that's just something I would just sort of put out there, really, is just consider that.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. I think, you know, it's something that any organization does need to consider. You know, it is an investment in time as well as in money, and obviously there's always a period of change when you're putting in a new system. But as I mentioned earlier, we always recommend that there's someone who has got the capacity and the interest as well to train themselves up and be willing to go through a bit of training with someone from our team potentially. Salesforce offers loads of, there's the Trailhead, but there's loads of other kind of learning resources. You know, potentially you could even become a certified Salesforce administrator if you wanted to be. But these things it is an investment in time and energy, you know. And yeah, we always recommend, as I said, that there's someone within the organization who kind of takes that on. I think you've done a great job considering all the many other things that you have to do as well. So, you know, that's really great. Well done. Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a great chat with you, and
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. And anyone else on the line, just to finish off, it's kind of near the end of our time here. You know, I've got some stuff on the left here. You know, takeaways, I guess, and a lot of the things that we've been discussing. You know, if you're in a similar scenario or situation that Sarah was describing at the beginning of the call about where Alzheimer and dementia support services were, and some of the things that we've been talking about in terms of outcomes and the results are resonating with you, please, would be, you know, be really great to have a chat with you. We will be, sorry, there's something in my throat. We will be sending out a recording of this this webinar today as well. But please do, you know, feel free to reach out to us at any point, and it'd be great to have a chat with anyone around how we could help your organization in terms of service delivery. If you have any questions broadly around Salesforce, we work really closely with the Salesforce teams, and I know that they are always really happy to chat to organizations as well. So on the right-hand side, you'll see there's our website, www.economicchange.co.uk. There's my email address. I've put a link here for Calendly, which I use for people to book time in my diary. So if you'd like to have a chat with me or book a meeting, please go right ahead there. There's our office number and my mobile number as well. So it'd be great to hear from you all, but you will be receiving a recording of this. And I don't think there are any questions that I can see. Oh, wait, hold, there's one here. It won't be helpful. This is from Kat. Thanks, Kat. It would be helpful to have some sample screens that can be set up in Salesforce to achieve this kind of dashboard reporting. Maybe this could be sent as a follow-up to the webinar. That's perfect, Kat. Thank you. I'll see what I can do, and I can see if we can send that as part of either that email that goes out from this webinar, or as separately we can send you something as well. So I'll definitely do that. I don't think there's any other questions. Just something from Noreen. Thank you. Thanks, Noreen. But yeah, thank you again, Sarah. I'm really grateful that you were able to join us this morning on a Monday morning. when I know we're all busy. And it's been great to chat with you and for me to learn more about what you've been doing as well at ADSS.
Lovely,
So
thank you.
yeah, it's great. And we'll chat soon, I'm sure. And to everyone else, have a great week. Thank you so much again for joining. And hopefully we'll hear from you soon. Thank you. I'm going to close it off now.